Welcome back to Explained, where we kind of dive deep into those things that make you go, huh, I never thought about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we are going to be tackling something that you use every single day, probably without realizing just how complex it is. Wireless networks.
Yeah, it's true. We kind of just take it for granted that we can just hop online anywhere.
Right.
But behind the scenes, there's this whole symphony of technology that's making that happen.
Okay, so first let's set the stage.
Okay.
We've got more mobile phone subscribers than people on landlines by a ratio of 10 to 1.
Wow.
And get this, there are even more mobile broadband devices than fixed broadband devices. That's like 5 to 1.
Wow.
I mean, think about how many wireless devices you rely on every day. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Let us know your count in the comments. We're curious.
Yeah, it really is remarkable how wireless communication has become like the dominant form of connectivity. But this shift to wireless brings its own, unique set of challenges.
Yeah, like what? Spill the tea. What makes wireless networks so tricky compared to those nice, stable wires?
Well, one of the biggest headaches is something called the hidden terminal problem.
Okay.
Imagine 3 devices. Let's call them A, B, and C.
Okay.
A and B can hear each other loud and clear, and so can B and C. But A and C are too far apart to even know the other exists.
Ooh, like if I'm trying to chat with someone at a concert
Yeah.
and somebody else is yelling in their other ear,
Yeah.
we can't hear each other's conversations, but the person in the middle is getting blasted with both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now picture that with dozens of devices all trying to talk to the same access point. Total chaos.
Yeah.
And this issue is amplified by something called signal attenuation, which is just a fancy way of saying that signals naturally get weaker the further they travel.
So that's why my Wi-Fi slows to a crawl when I'm hiding out in the basement. Speaking of Wi-Fi, why do those access points need so many antennas? I mean, do they really need to look like a spider doing yoga?
That's a great question. Those antennas aren't just for show.
Oh.
They actually serve several important purposes.
Okay.
First, there's path diversity. Wireless signals don't just travel in a straight line. They bounce off walls, furniture, even people.
So it's like having a bunch of different paths to get to the same destination in case one route gets blocked.
Precisely, having multiple antennas means the access point can receive signals from different directions, giving it a much better chance of getting a clear signal.
Clever. I'm starting to see why these things need to be so complex.
And it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Those multiple antennas also enable something called MIMO, which stands for multiple input but multiple output.
Yeah.
This technology allows the access point to send and receive multiple data streams at the same time, using those different antennas as separate lanes.
Wait, so it's like going from a single-lane dirt road to a multi-lane superhighway for my data. No wonder things speed up when I'm closer to the router.
Exactly. And to top it all off, multiple antennas can also be used for something called multi-band operation.
Okay.
You see different wireless standards use different frequency bands, and having a separate antenna for each band helps to minimize interference and optimize performance.
Okay, that makes sense. It's kind of like needing a different radio to tune into different stations, right?
You got it. Now that we've covered some of the challenges and solutions at a high level,
Okay.
let's break down the essential elements of a wireless network.
All right, let's unpack this. I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay, at its core, a wireless network has 3 main players. First, you have the wireless hosts, which are all the devices connecting to the network.
Right.
Your laptop, phone, tablet, smart fridge, you name it.
Gotcha.
Then you have the base stations, like those cell towers you see dotting the landscape, or your humble Wi-Fi router at home.
So the base stations are like the intermediaries between my devices and the wider world of the internet.
Exactly. They manage all the communication between your devices and the rest of the network. Okay. And finally, we have the wireless links themselves, those invisible pathways that data zips across to get from your phone to, say, a website on the other side of the world.
Ooh. Never really thought about it that way. But it's amazing that these invisible links are what connect us to literally billions of other devices.
It really is a marvel of modern technology. Now, there are 2 main ways that these networks can be set up.
Right.
The first is infrastructure mode, which is like your typical Wi-Fi network. You have a central access point, the router, and all your devices connect to it.
Okay, I get that. So what's the other mode?
The other mode is called ad hoc mode.
Okay.
In this mode, there's no central authority, and devices communicate directly with each other, kind of like a pop-up party.
So infrastructure mode is like a well-organized dinner party with a designated host.
Right.
while ad hoc mode is more like a spontaneous picnic in the park.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Now, since most of us are familiar with Wi-Fi, let's zoom in on the 802.11 standard, which is the technical backbone of all things Wi-Fi.
All right, bring on the Wi-Fi wisdom. And for everyone listening, be sure to follow Explained so you don't miss out on the rest of this deep dive. You won't believe how much goes into making your internet work.
It's a wild ride for sure, and it's incredible how much the standard has evolved over time. We've gone from the early days of 802.1 MB, which crawled along at a mere 11 MBs, to the latest and greatest 802.11x, also known as Wi-Fi 6, which can hit a whopping 14 Gbps.
Hold up, that's like going from a horse and buggy to a supersonic jet in terms of speed.
And it's not just about speed. Each new generation brings improvements in range efficiency and features.
Right.
There's even a lesser-known standard called 802.1NAF that's designed to provide long-range connectivity in rural areas.
Wait, how does that work? Rural areas don't exactly have the strongest signals, do they?
That's where things get really clever. 802.1NAF actually uses unused TV bands for transmission, which have much longer wavelengths and can travel farther. It's a great example of how engineers are finding creative solutions to connect even the most remote corners of the world.
That's really cool. So how does a typical 802.11 network actually work? I mean, what's going on under the hood to make all this wireless magic happen?
In a typical 802.11 setup, you have multiple wireless hosts, each belonging to what's called a basic service set, or BSS.
Okay.
Think of it like a little neighborhood within the network.
So my laptop and phone connected to my home Wi-Fi would be a BSS.
Exactly. And at the heart of each BSS is an access point, or AP, which is essentially your Wi-Fi router.
So the AP is like the mayor of the BSS, keeping everything running smoothly.
Perfect analogy. Now, when you connect to a Wi-Fi network, your device actually goes through a whole handshake process called association.
You mean like when I see a list of Wi-Fi networks pop up on my phone?
Yeah.
What's happening there?
That's your device scanning for beacon frames, broadcasted by nearby APs. These beacon frames contain all sorts of info, like the network name security settings and the AP's MC address, which is like its unique fingerprint.
Okay, so my phone sees all these networks.
Right.
And I pick one to connect to.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then your device sends an association request to the chosen AP, and the AP decides whether to let you in or not.
So the AP is like a digital bouncer.
Yeah.
Checking my credentials before I can enter the party.
Exactly. If everything checks out, you'll need to go through authentication, maybe enter a password or use a shared key.
Yeah, I know that feeling of dread when I realize I've forgotten the Wi-Fi password.
We've all been there. But assuming you pass the authentication test, the AP grants you access, assigns you an IP address, and boom, you're connected.
It's crazy how much happens in those few seconds it takes to connect to Wi-Fi. I never realized how much negotiation was going on behind the scenes.
It's a testament to how sophisticated wireless technology has become. But as we mentioned earlier, all these devices trying to access the network at the same time can lead to collisions and chaos. To prevent that, 802.11 networks use a clever mechanism called CSMA.
Okay, break that down for me. What is CSMA, and how does it prevent devices from talking over each other?
So CSMA stands for Carrier Sense Multiple Access.
Okay.
And it's all about being polite and taking turns. Basically, before a device transmits any data, it listens to the channel to see if anyone else is talking.
Okay.
If the channel is clear, it goes ahead and transmits. If it's busy, it waits a random amount of time before checking again.
So it's like politely waiting your turn to speak in a conversation.
Exactly. But here's the key difference between wired and wireless networks.
Okay.
In wired networks, devices can actually detect if a collision happens, like two people accidentally starting to speak at the same time.
Yeah.
But in wireless networks, collisions are much harder to detect because of all the signal interference we talked about earlier.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how does the CA part of CSMA come into play?
CA stands for collision avoidance.
Okay.
And it's all about preventing those collisions in the first place. One of the key techniques used here is the RTS-CTS exchange, which stands for request to send clear to send.
Okay.
Imagine this device A wants to send a big file to the AP,
Okay.
but it doesn't want to interrupt anyone else who might be talking.
All right. I'm following so far.
Yeah.
What does device A do?
It first sends a short RTS packet to the AP, basically saying, hey, I've got something to say, can I have the floor?
Okay.
The AP then broadcasts the CTS packet back to device A, essentially giving it permission to transmit.
So it's like reserving the conference room before you start your presentation.
Exactly. And this CTS packet is heard by all the other devices in the BSS, so they know to hold their transmissions until device A is finished.
Clever. So it's like a virtual traffic cop directing the flow of data to prevent any digital fender benders.
Precisely. This RTS-CTS exchange might seem like a small detail, but it plays a big role in making wireless networks run smoothly, especially when multiple devices are vying for attention. Now, another crucial aspect of any network is addressing or making sure data gets delivered to the right destination.
Okay, this is where things start to get a little mind-bending for me. How does my data know where to go in this vast sea of wireless signals?
It all comes down to MAC addresses.
Yep.
Every device and access point has a unique MAC address, kind of like a social security number for your gadget.
Oh, right.
When a device wants to send data, it includes the MAC address of the destination device in the data frame.
So it's like putting the right address on an envelope before you mail it.
Exactly. And the access point acts like a mail sorter, looking at the address and directing the data to the correct destination. Now things get a bit more intricate when a device needs to send data outside its local network, like when you're browsing the web.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. My laptop is on my home network, but the website I'm trying to reach could be on a server halfway across the world.
All right.
How does my data even find its way there?
Well, let's say you're browsing the web on your laptop, which is connected to your home Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Your laptop is in one BSS, and the gateway, which connects your home network to the internet, is in another BSS connected through a router.
Okay, I'm visualizing this. So how does the data from my laptop get through the router and out to the vast expanse of the internet?
When your laptop sends the data frame, it addresses it to the MIC address of the gateway.
Okay.
However, since the gateway is in a different BSS, the data frame first needs to be sent to the access point of your BSS.
So the access point acts as a middleman forwarding the data along.
Exactly. But here's where things get interesting.
No.
The access point actually replaces the source MSE address in the data frame with its own MC address before forwarding it.
Wait, why does it do that? Doesn't that mess things up?
It's actually a clever trick to ensure that the reply from the gateway gets back to your laptop correctly.
Yeah.
When a device receives a frame, it learns the MEI address of the sender and associates it with the port from which the frame arrived. By replacing the source MAC address with its own, the access point ensures that the gateway will send its reply back to the correct BSS, and the access point can then forward it to your laptop.
That's sneaky. So the access point is like putting on a disguise to make sure the data flows in the right direction.
Precisely. It's a bit like a game of telephone where each person whispers the message to the next person, but in this case, the message is data and the people are network devices.
Right.
Now, another remarkable feature of 802.11 networks is how they handle device mobility.
You mean like when I'm walking around my house streaming a video on my phone?
Exactly. Let's say your phone is initially connected to BSS 1.
Okay.
And then you stroll into range of BSS 2.
Uh-huh.
Your phone will seamlessly disassociate from BSS 1 and associate with BSS 2, all without interrupting your video stream.
Whoa, hold on. My phone is switching networks, but my video doesn't even hiccup. How is that possible?
The magic lies in the fact that your IP address actually remains the same during this handover.
Really?
And because TCP, the protocol responsible for reliable data transmission, keeps track of the ongoing session, your video stream just keeps on trucking.
That's seriously impressive. It's like my phone is doing a digital high five with the new access point without missing a beat.
It's a testament to how far wireless technology has come in terms of seamless connectivity, and we're only just scratching the surface. 802.1 has a whole arsenal of other advanced features that make wireless networks even more robust and efficient.
All right, I'm all ears. Tell me more about these secret weapons of Wi-Fi.
One cool feature is rate adaptation.
Go for it.
Remember how we talked about signal strength decreasing as you move further away from the access point?
Yeah.
Well, to maintain a stable connection, 802.11 devices can dynamically adjust the data rate based on the signal quality.
So it's like automatically downshifting gears in a car when you're going uphill to maintain speed.
A perfect analogy. If the signal strength weakens, the device might switch to a lower data rate, which is more robust to signal degradation. This helps prevent data loss and keeps the connection alive, even when things get a bit shaky.
That's pretty slick. What other tricks does 802.1 have up its sleeve?
Another neat feature is power management, which is especially crucial for battery-powered devices like your phone or laptop.
Yeah, I'm always trying to squeeze as much juice out of my phone as possible. How does power management work in a wireless network?
When a device isn't actively transmitting or receiving data,
Hmm.
It can go into a low-power sleep mode to conserve energy.
Right.
But don't worry, it's not totally off the grid.
So how does it know when to wake up if there's incoming data? I wouldn't want to miss an important message.
The access point periodically broadcasts those beacon frames we talked about earlier,
Uh-huh.
and these frames include a list of devices for which the AP has data waiting.
Okay.
So a sleeping device wakes up briefly to check if it's on the list.
Hmm.
If it is, it stays awake to receive the data, otherwise it goes back to sleep.
That's incredibly efficient. It's like taking a power nap, but still being ready to jump into action when needed.
Exactly. This power management dance between the device and the access point is what helps extend the battery life of your wireless gadgets.
It's amazing how much thought and engineering goes into making these networks work seamlessly. We've covered a lot of ground already, but I have a feeling we're just getting started.
You're absolutely right. We've only just scratched the surface of the wireless world.
Right.
There's a whole universe of other technologies, protocols, and challenges to explore.
Well, I'm definitely ready to dive deeper into this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
What other fascinating facets of wireless networks are waiting to be uncovered?
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break to delve into even more intriguing aspects of the wireless world. Welcome back to Explained, where we take those everyday things you use and flip them inside out to see what makes them tick. Today, we're continuing our exploration of the wireless world, uncovering the hidden wonders and mind-boggling complexities of how we stay connected.
It's kind of like peeking behind the curtain of the Matrix, isn't it? All this wireless magic we take for granted, but there's a whole symphony of tech happening behind the scenes. Before the break, we were talking about all the cool features of 8 and 2.1 networks, like rate adaptation and power management.
Right.
But I have a feeling there's a whole lot more to this wireless saga.
Oh, you have no idea. We've only just scratched the surface. Remember how we talked about the evolution of Wi-Fi standards?
Yeah.
From those early days of 802.1nb all the way to the super fast Wi-Fi 6?
Right.
Well, the evolution doesn't stop there.
Oh, really? Spill the beans? What's next on the horizon for Wi-Fi?
Well, the future of wireless is all about faster speeds, greater capacity, and connecting more devices than ever before. We're talking about the era of 5G and beyond. 5G isn't just a simple upgrade. It's a whole new ballgame.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break it down for me. What makes 5G so special?
5G is designed to handle a massive influx of devices, from smartphones and laptops to smart homes, self-driving cars, and even those futuristic smart cities we keep hearing about.
Oh, it sounds like 5G is going to be the backbone of our connected future.
It really is.
But what about those security concerns we hear about with all these devices being online?
That's a great question, and it's something that researchers are constantly working on. As we connect more and more devices, security becomes even more critical. We need to make sure our data is protected, especially with sensitive information being transmitted wirelessly.
Right. I've heard rumors about this thing called cognitive radio technology. What is that, and could it help with security?
Cognitive radio is a really cool concept that involves wireless devices that can sense their environment and adapt their transmission parameters accordingly.
So they're like chameleons that can blend into their surroundings to communicate more effectively.
That's a great analogy. These cognitive radios can dynamically switch frequencies, adjust their power levels, and even cooperate with other devices to avoid interference and optimize performance.
It's like they're having a conversation with each other to figure out the best way to share the airwaves without stepping on each other's toes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this ability to adapt and cooperate is going to be crucial as the wireless spectrum gets more and more crowded with all these devices clamoring for bandwidth. But security isn't the only challenge facing wireless networks. We also need to figure out how to handle the ever-increasing demand for data. I mean, we're streaming more video, playing more online games, and doing more data-intensive tasks than ever before.
Right. It's like everyone's trying to squeeze through the same narrow doorway at the same time. What are some of the ways we can address this bandwidth crunch?
One approach is to expand the available spectrum for wireless communication. Traditionally, wireless networks have operated in specific frequency bands, but there's a growing push to explore new, underutilized bands.
So it's like opening up new lanes on the highway to accommodate more traffic.
Exactly. And this might involve using higher frequencies, which offer more bandwidth, or employing techniques like dynamic spectrum sharing, which allows different types of wireless networks to share the same spectrum more efficiently.
Okay, that sounds promising. Are there other strategies for squeezing more bandwidth out of our wireless networks?
Another important avenue is to improve the efficiency of data transmission. This involves using more sophisticated modulation and coding techniques to pack more data into each signal.
So it's like finding clever ways to fit more luggage into a suitcase.
You got it. And there are also techniques like multiplexing, which allows multiple data streams to be transmitted over the same channel simultaneously.
It's like having multiple conversations happening on the same phone line without interfering with each other.
Exactly. These advancements in data transmission efficiency are going to be key to meeting the growing bandwidth demands of our data-hungry world. And speaking of data, it's important to talk about privacy.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. With all this wireless connectivity, it feels like our every move is being tracked and monitored.
Privacy is a fundamental right, and it's something we need to take seriously, especially as wireless networks become even more pervasive.
So what are some of the ways that wireless networks are addressing privacy concerns?
Well, one crucial approach is encryption. By scrambling the data being transmitted, encryption makes it unintelligible to anyone who doesn't have the decryption key. It's like putting your sensitive information in a locked box before sending it over the airwaves.
That makes me feel a little better. But encryption alone isn't a silver bullet, right?
Right. We also need strong authentication mechanisms to make sure that only authorized devices and users can access the network. Think strong passwords, biometric authentication, and other ways to verify identity.
It's like having a multi-layered security system to protect our privacy in the wireless world.
Exactly. And as wireless networks continue to evolve, we can expect to see even more innovative approaches to safeguarding our privacy. But beyond all the technical details, it's important to remember that wireless networks are about more than just bits and bytes. They're about connecting people, sharing information, and building communities.
That's a great point. Wireless communication has revolutionized how we interact with each other, from social media and video calls to online gaming and virtual reality experiences.
It's like we've created a global village where people from all over the world can connect and share their lives in real time.
It's pretty amazing to think about how this invisible technology has such a tangible impact on our lives, shaping how we communicate, learn, work, and play. What do you think the future holds for wireless communication and its role in human connection? Let us know in the comments.
It's an exciting and ever-changing landscape, and I'm eager to see how wireless networks will continue to influence how we connect with each other and the world around us. But for now, let's take a step back and revisit some of the challenges that wireless networks still need to overcome.
All right, back to the nitty-gritty. What are some of the hurdles that engineers are still grappling with in the wireless realm?
One challenge that always looms large is security. As wireless networks become more widespread and carry more sensitive data, they become more attractive targets for hackers and cybercriminals.
It's like leaving your front door unlocked in a neighborhood with increasing foot traffic. You're just asking for trouble.
Exactly. And the stakes are higher than ever with things like online banking, healthcare records, and even smart home devices being connected wirelessly. Researchers are constantly working on developing more robust security protocols and technologies to stay one step ahead of the bad guys.
So it's a never-ending cat-and-mouse game between the security experts and the hackers.
You could say that, but remember, it's not just about preventing outright attacks. It's also about ensuring privacy and protecting personal information from unauthorized access. Encryption, authentication, anonymization, access control, all of these play a role in safeguarding our digital lives.
It sounds like there's a lot of work to be done to make sure our wireless world is both secure and private.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process and one that requires constant vigilance and innovation. But hey, that's what makes this field so exciting. There's always a new challenge to solve, a new frontier to explore.
I love that spirit of exploration. Speaking of exploring, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on a few more intriguing aspects of wireless technology. Are there any other cool innovations on the horizon that you're particularly excited about?
There are so many fascinating developments happening right now. One area that I find particularly intriguing is the concept of wireless power transfer. Imagine being able to charge your phone or laptop without any cables.
Wait, what? That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. How does that even work?
It involves using electromagnetic fields to transmit energy wirelessly, kind of like how a transformer works. Researchers are exploring different techniques, from magnetic resonance coupling to laser-based power beaming.
Mind blown. It sounds like the possibilities are endless. And speaking of possibilities, what about the Internet of Things?
Yeah.
We hear so much about it, but I still don't fully grasp what it means for our everyday lives.
The Internet of Things, or IoT, is all about connecting everyday objects to the Internet, from your refrigerator and coffee maker to your car, and even your clothing. This interconnectedness allows for data collection, remote control, and automation on a scale we've never seen before.
So my fridge could order groceries for me when I'm running low, And my car could drive itself to work while I take a nap in the back seat.
Exactly. Well, maybe not the napping part just yet, but you get the idea. The IoT has the potential to revolutionize everything from healthcare and transportation to agriculture and manufacturing.
It's both exciting and a little daunting to think about how interconnected our world is becoming. But I have to admit, I'm curious to see where this wireless journey takes us.
Me too. And for everyone listening, be sure to follow Explained to stay up to date on all the latest developments in the wireless world and beyond.
We're always diving deep into the most fascinating topics, bringing you the knowledge and insights you need to navigate this ever-evolving technological landscape.
Now, before we sign off, we'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the future of wireless technology?
What excites you? What concerns you? What questions do you still have?
Share your insights, your predictions, and your wildest wireless dreams in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and follow Explained for more explorations into the fascinating world of science, technology, and beyond.
We're always on the lookout for new topics to unpack, so let us know what you'd like us to explain next.
Until then, stay curious, stay connected, and keep exploring. Welcome back to Explain, the podcast that shines a light on those everyday wonders we often take for granted. Today, we've been on a whirlwind tour of the wireless world.
Yeah.
From the hidden complexities of Wi-Fi to the mind-blowing possibilities of 5G and the Internet of Things.
It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical nuts and bolts of how wireless networks work to the broader implications for our connected future.
Yeah, it's really made me appreciate just how much we rely on this invisible web of wireless signals to communicate, work, play, and, well, pretty much live our lives.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up this epic deep dive, I want to touch on one more fascinating aspect of wireless technology.
Okay.
Its impact on human connection.
Ah, yes. That's a really important point. Wireless communication has fundamentally changed how we interact with each other, breaking down geographical barriers and creating new ways to connect.
I mean, think about it. Social media, video calls, online gaming, all these platforms rely on wireless networks to bring people together regardless of where they are in the world.
It's like we've shrunk the world into a global village where people from all walks of life can connect and share experiences in real time.
It's incredible to think about how this seemingly invisible technology has such a tangible impact on our social lives,
Right.
our relationships, and even our sense of community. What are some of the ways that you see wireless communication shaping the future of human connection?
Well, for one, I think we'll continue to see a blurring of the lines between the physical and digital worlds. With advancements in augmented reality, virtual reality, and haptics, we'll be able to interact with each other in more immersive and engaging ways, even if we're miles apart.
Whoa, that sounds straight out of a sci-fi novel. Imagine attending a concert with friends from all over the world, all from the comfort of your own living room, or feeling like you're actually shaking hands with someone on a video call.
Exactly. The possibilities are mind-boggling, and with the rise of the metaverse, we may even start spending more time in virtual worlds than in the physical world.
It's both exciting and a little daunting to think about how our social lives might evolve as wireless technology continues to advance. But it's clear that these technologies have the power to connect us in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that these technologies are tools, and like any tool, they can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
It's up to us to shape how they're developed and used to foster positive and meaningful connections.
That's a great point. We have a responsibility to use these technologies wisely and ethically to create a more connected and compassionate world. And speaking of responsibility, we want to hear from you, our amazing listeners.
Yes.
How has wireless communication changed the way you connect with others? What role do you see wireless technology playing in the future of human interaction? Share your insights, your stories, and your predictions in the comments below. We're always eager to hear your perspectives. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of wireless networks, be sure to follow Explained for more explorations into the fascinating realms of science, technology, and beyond. We're constantly on the lookout for new topics to unpack, so let us know what you'd like us to explain next. Until then, stay curious, stay connected, and keep exploring the wonders of our interconnected world.